Welcome back to the Road to National series. In today's episode, I'm going to take you through a dynamic effort lower workout, and later in the video, I'm going to talk to you about accessories. But first things first, this is me doing my dynamic effort deadlifts for this week. So for this 3-week cycle, on my dynamic effort lower days, I'm going to be doing deadlifts, and next cycle, I'll be doing squats. That's a change that I've made recently to my programming. I was trying to do 2 dynamic effort lower days per week, both squats and deadlifts, but I've just switched it to 1, and I find that very beneficial. My dynamic effort deadlifts here are moving much faster than they have done in previous cycles, and I think that's because I've just reduced it to 1 dynamic effort day. So these went very well. It was 3 sets of 5 at 80% total 1 rep max, 120 kilos bar weight, which is slightly heavier than it should have been. It should have been 116, and then 100 kilos of band tension. So they move very well. Moving on to the accessories, I started off here with belt squats. Now, these were fantastic. I was able to build up to 150 kilos on these. The heaviest I'd done before was 100 kilos, like you're seeing here. This was just me warming up. But at 150 kilos, I was moving much more weight. I was actually able to go close to failure for my quads. Today, at the time of recording this, it's the day after, and I have quad DOMs, but most importantly, I've been working through a knee injury, and my knee did not hurt whilst doing this. I simply felt my quads, and I have no knee pain the day after today, and just some quad DOMs. So feeling fantastic about these, feeling like I can actually overload my quads again, and that should massively improve my squat. So after these was hamstring curls, then elevated calf raises. Then I had to go. I was meeting some friends, so I came back later to complete the last 2 accessories, which were roller hip abductions and then reverse hypers. So whilst those accessories are playing in the background, I'm going to talk to you about accessories. So the main goal of accessories is to do 2 things, particularly within the conjugate system, which I'm training, where I do specific work for max efforts and dynamic efforts like you've seen. Accessories is the 3rd piece of that puzzle. So the reason I do accessories is for 2 things. The first thing is to build muscle. So muscle size is one of 3 things that determines how strong you are. The first thing is your leverages or muscle insertions. That is how the weight is applied to your body, and you can modify that with technique to an extent. The second thing is your muscle size. That is going to say how much of a capacity to get strong you have. And then the third thing that determines how strong you are is your neurological drive. How much of your muscles capacity and your big muscles can you recruit? So getting big muscles and using accessories to get big muscles is like having a bigger engine in a car. And then your neurological drive is like how much horsepower you can actually get out of that engine. But bigger engines, you're going to be able to get more horsepower out. Bigger muscles, you're going to be able to get more strength out of them. So that's the first and main purpose of accessories. And then the second one is to target weaknesses. So if you are, for instance, having a weakness locking out your bench presses, that's where you normally fail. Maybe doing tricep accessories and bringing up your tricep strength, specifically isolating the tricep, is going to help. So when we're doing our main compound lifts, so for powerlifting, the squat, the bench, and the deadlift, if triceps are your limiting factor, just benching alone might not be the most efficient way to improve your bench. So within the conjugate system, I still do max effort benches and dynamic effort benches, but if my triceps were a weakness, I would focus more on them and I'd do specific tricep training. So that is the purpose of accessories. Now, the first thing I'll say when it comes to actually executing your accessories is you need to be training hard and intensely. Now, the reason for this is what strength gain and muscle gain actually is it's a survival adaptation. Your body sees you doing really hard effort work and it thinks you're like hunting a mammoth or building a shelter and that you need to do that to survive. And your body thinks, whoa, that was very difficult. There is no way that I could do this on a day-to-day basis. And it thinks that you're going to need to survive. So what it does is quickly gain muscle and strength in order to allow you to do what it thinks is survival work. So your resistance training in the gym, you're actually tricking your body into thinking you need to do that to survive. But if you are training very meekly and very easily, just going through the motions, your body thinks, well, I can do that with my current level of strength and muscle mass. Yeah, I can do that every day, no problem, no sweat. There is literally no reason for it to gain any muscle or strength. So you have to be training hard and intensely. Now, different people have popularized different things and said that volume's the best thing for muscle growth, or intensity is. They've often been pitted against each other, but if you actually look at any successful bodybuilder, they all trained intensely. Arnold was one of the highest volume trainers ever, but if you actually go back and watch the footage of him training and pumping iron, look at his facial expressions. They're like going into spasm. He is routinely training to failure. He's just doing it for loads and loads of sets at slightly higher weights than people like maybe Dorian Yates, who popularized really high intensity training. But the point is, in order for their bodies to actually build muscle, they had to train hard and send the very clear signal to the body to gain muscle that its current level of muscle mass was not enough to do the exercise that's being demanded of it. So you should always train hard. Because of this, I like doing 2 sets per workout. The first set, I try and go all out and go to failure. And then the second set, I just try and match that. Now, often you can't match that, and that's fine. You can either just drop short. For instance, you might have got 10 reps on your first set and you only get 8 reps on the second set. But another great way of upping the intensity is to do drop sets. So if you went all out and got like 12 reps on the first set and you don't think you're going to get more than 8 reps on the second set, you could do a drop set. You could do 8 reps at the original weight, drop the weight down by about 30%, and then just keep going. See how many extra reps you can get. You could probably get at least another 4. So drop sets are a great tool to help up the intensity, which is going to up the effectiveness of your accessories. Now, if you're first starting out, by the way, I wouldn't train absolute all out because your body's not conditioned to do that. You could get injured. You want to build up your body's capacity to train hard. So when you're first getting into it, train a few days a week and just slowly ease your body into it. And that applies as well if you've had a long time off the gym. If you're coming back after 2 years, you're not what you once were. You will quickly gain it back. Muscle memory is definitely a thing, but you just need to go easier for a while. So that's the only caveat to training hard. When you program accessories, what I would do is program them in groups. So some are very simple. It could be like a tricep exercise. Like I said before, training your triceps to help your bench lockout. You just have tricep exercises grouped together. But for lower body, I group exercises like a leg push. So the belt squats that I did earlier in this session was an example of a leg push. But other leg pushes could be things like Zercher squats or elevated heel squats or leg presses or hack squats or pendulum squats or Smith machine squats. Loads of different types of leg pressing where you're pressing away. They all train a very similar thing. And I think you should just do one of those per exercise, per training session, one exercise like that rather than doing multiple. And then throughout a week, you should target everything. So in this training day, I did a leg push, then a hamstring curl. In my squat training day, I did a hip hinge, then a quad extension. Overall, I've trained leg pushing, hip hinging, quad extension, and hamstring curl. Then both sessions I trained calf raising. Then I trained abductions, hip abducting one session, hip adducting the opposite movement the other session. And then I've done some miscellaneous lower exercises like reverse hypers here. And the other session, I can't actually remember what I did earlier this week. But the point is, overall, throughout my weekly sessions, I've hit everything that needed to with the lower body, but I've just done one exercise for 2 sets on each one and trained really hard. You don't need to do like 10 different exercises targeting the same thing when you're doing your accessories. Now, the last thing I'll say is if you're feeling sore and you have something programmed, for instance, if you go into a workout and you got really sore calves and you're meant to do a calf exercise, I would still train them, but just go really light and get blood flow in them. And that can actually help them recover. You're probably going to be less sore after doing that, even though you've trained. It's a bit counterintuitive than you were before you trained. It's a great way at helping you recover. It's called active recovery. So you can do that as well with your accessory. So that is it for today's video. I hope you did in fact enjoy the video. If you did, drop it a like, drop it a comment, subscribe, click the bell, all of that good stuff, and thanks for watching.